Did I do it
You
right?
did it.
Oh boy. That would have
Wow.
been horrible if the game designer couldn't figure that out.
No. You just blame the design on somebody else, right?
Oh,
Design choices.
I know somehow that doesn't seem to work with me sometimes. So, who
Or you could
knows?
just blame Marcus. Blame it on
It's like
Marcus, right?
Marcus, yeah, that's right. It's always Marcus's fault.
You always got to have a fall guy.
He's good.
Roberta,
No, I'm just
how are
kidding.
you doing today?
I'm doing good. I am, I've been working. I've been typing at my computer various bugs and errors and good stuff for the last 5 hours or so. So this is kind of a nice little break, I guess you could say. Get
A
my
little
fingers
reprieve?
working again.
Well, good. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so thrilled. Poor Ken. Poor Ken. I was nagging him all week to come on, please convince Roberta to come on. And he said, "I'll try. I'll try."
It wasn't that I didn't want to or anything. It's just that I'm so busy right now. And both Ken and I are, really working hard on this game. And right now I'm kind of, in the, I don't know what you call it, the seat, the hot seat, I guess. Because everybody's got, you got to play the game, keep playing the game, keep playing it. Come on. So that's all I can think about. I go to bed, got to play the game. Get up, you got to play the game. So that was more or less what was in my mind. But you guys are important, so
Well,
I
we're
wanted
grateful
to
to
hear.
grateful to have you, and grateful to hear that you folks are back to making games. You're making Colossal Cave. You're well into reimagining Colossal Cave, and it's called Colossal Cave Reimagined by Roberta Williams. I love that. I love that title. Wonderful
Really?
marketing
I
from a
mean,
marketing guy.
I know that was Marcus.
Pretty on the nose. I gotta hand it.
And I was kind of like, I don't know, that just sounds so egotistical, Honestly, I have to take this moment to say I really want to also not talk about, but mention at least the original designers for Colossal Cave. It's so important. Will Crowther and Don Woods. I mean, really, this is their game. They designed it. And it's such a wonderful design. It really is. I played it back in 1980, and just that's what started my career, I guess you could say, and even Sierra Online. And I was just so taken with it. It was so wonderful. And I just think that they need to, when you say reimagined by Roberta Williams, yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. And there is a lot that's going into that. But I do want to mention their names because they really deserve the credit for a wonderful design. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So that actually brings up an interesting question. I mean, they created this text adventure back in the day, and now you're coming at it as a VR game. Those are two very different beasts. So,
well, yeah.
What sort of challenges have you had in doing
that? So many. It's so many. It's so hard to even describe. I have said that it's easier, at least for me, to write my own game, to make up my own game, and then to take this game, this elegant, wonderfully, very deep, a lot of depth game to it, and bring it to VR, 3D graphics, bringing it alive in a really real way. When you're walking through it, whether you're, wearing your, the VR headset, or even, on PC or any other platform that it's going to be played on, it's got to be alive. It's more than, that the text is already there, much of it, although I'm writing a lot more text, and out of necessity because we have graphics now. And when you add graphics, you're trying to make the world look more beautiful, more to see, more to feel, the more feeling you're actually in a space and in a cave or forest or wherever you are. You have to feel it, and you could write it in text, and you can get a lot of the same idea of where you may be by your own imagination as you're going through it. But now we have to show it. And so, just out of necessity, really, we added more character. I don't mean characters, but character to the world and what you see, and props and things, and just beautiful, whatever characteristics of the cave, that stalactites and mites and crystals and just all kinds of stuff. And so you kind of have to comment on it a bit, as you're going through it. People, they want to click on this or click on that, or what's that, what's this, and there have to be some responses. So I have added messages for that reason. My original thought had been just to keep the original messages from Will Crowther and Don Woods, but that wasn't enough when you add in graphics. So that's one of the things. Although all of their messages are there, I did not remove anything, and I did not change any of their messages. All of their messages are there. And for those that have played Colossal Cave, they will see them and they will recognize them because they are there. So I've just added, where it was needed. And the other thing, characters. We have the same characters, but now they have to be animated. They have to be designed. So we have the 3D animations of all the various characters. I will say we sort of beefed up the dwarves. Dwarves are very famous in this game, and they're very annoying, and annoying in the same way they were annoying in the original Colossal Cave. They come along and they try to kill you with knives, and they still do, and they still do it in the same way that they do it, and they can even accumulate. If you're not very good at getting rid of them yourself, meaning killing them. Mm-hmm. So we have those guys, but I did decide to sort of add a dwarf culture a little bit in the cave. So we may see some additional dwarves. I've decided that they are miners, prospectors. They're in the cave, and they're doing their things. And so there's that, I wanted to add a little more of that character. What else? I mean, there's sound effects, there's music, there's there's lots of what is the word? Special effects. Lots and lots of special effects. Magical particles, and just, there's so much. There's a mirror in the game, and so right now we're trying to figure out how to get the mirror reflection in VR, and also in any other version that you're playing. And that's not an easy thing, especially when you're talking about VR and 3D, because you can look at it from any direction, and so there are issues with that. So there's so many things like that are much more than just text. No offense to just text adventure games at all, but you add that and you've got to deal with all this, and just even sound effects is like if you're in the forest, and that's the beginning room level, not room, but region level, is you're in the forest. Well, so we don't want to just wander through a quiet world where there's, nothing. So we add, you're in a forest, you have birds and bees and an owl and a little bit of wind and ambiance, background sounds. And there's a stream flowing down a gully. So if you go close to the stream, you have the stream sounds. But if you walk away from the stream, they get softer, and you go away and you can't hear it. So, I just have to say, I never thought when we got into this, with Ken and I, that I remember saying to Ken, this game's already designed. This is going to be so easy. We don't have to do that. Little did I know. And but we've had to come into VR, virtual reality, all these different platforms, really cold, both Ken and I, and we had to like literally figure out everything. Like it was almost like being thrown into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and you don't really know how to swim, and you better swim really fast. And it really felt like that at the beginning, and we're now beginning to get our sea legs.
So in that vein, let me ask you, you haven't, prior to this, you haven't actually been creating games for, we'll call it decades.
Or so years, yeah.
You jump into creating a cult classic adventure game that you yourself that was the first thing that you played that got you into it. Many others that were inspired in adventure gaming. And your last name is Williams. So you have a lot to live up to. Has that been something that's been difficult for you? Makes you nervous at all? Or what do you have to say for that standpoint?
I'm not nervous. I actually feel really good about the game. I was a little nervous at the beginning as to how well we were going to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. And because, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's both a historical game, and it's the game that started not just mine and Ken's careers and Sierra Online, but many others in our industry have been that is been influenced by directly perhaps with this game. And I've heard it being said, and I believe that with Dave Gilbert, that's true for him too. And so there was a lot of like pressure with that. But yeah, sort of being Roberta Williams and having done King's Quest and Phantasmagoria and all, 20 some games. Yeah, I guess you could say not so much nervousness, but concern and just wanting to make sure that we do a good job, and at the very beginning, I kind of said, if we cannot do this right, then we have to not do it. We can't do that. It wouldn't be fair to the game or us or Sierra or our fans.
Great. Yeah. Now you had mentioned there, keeping all the original text that the guys had written back in the day, and of course, one of the most famous phrases from that is "You are in a maze of twisty passages, all alike." And I remember when I was a kid, I played this with my dad, and we had like pages and pages of maps and notes and things. And
yep.
So how does that translate into the VR world here, where you've got a headset on? You can't really write down on traditional paper that you've got.
I know. Yeah, that's something we're dealing with now, and actually that very issue, because I did the same thing when I first played this game in 1980. I had to do the same thing. You had your paper there. I used graph paper, and you had to literally map your way all the way through it, and drop things. I mean and note, where you dropped them, and that's the way you had to do it. And I remember when we first started on this game, one of the first things I said was, maybe we should consider having auto mapping for this game. That wouldn't it be really cool if we could do that? And then it was sort of, the discussion around it was sort of like, yeah, maybe, yeah, no, I don't know, and let's wait and see. And a lot of the stuff in working on this game has been a little bit like that, kind of, well, yeah, let's just keep moving forward. Let's just see how it goes. And so finally, about probably not more than about a month ago, one of our QA people was I guess it started not so much with the maze. It really the whole subject of auto mapping came up again, and it was something that I had originally wanted to do, but it was concerning the VR with your headset on. because if you're playing with your PC or Nintendo Switch or anything like that, where you could set it down and make notes or whatever you wanted, that's not too big of a problem. But if you're playing obviously with a headset, you can't. I mean, imagine going, oh, excuse me, let me on, and then put it back on, and I mean that's not gonna fly. So so that's when we said, oh yeah, okay, we need to go back to that. So we do have that now. We're still trying to determine exactly how comprehensive we want to make that. We're still trying to make that determination as to whether we want to sort of keep it in the realm of you're sort of mapping yourself and keeping it sort of in that kind of like handwriting kind of way, as if you're doing it and highlighting where you are at any time, but noting especially where you're dropping items, because that's one of the things that we have discovered when doing a game like this with VR, or just 3D graphics. It doesn't even have to be VR necessarily. Is finding your stuff. You drop something. Where is it? Because this is a big world. It's a very big world, and so we're adding that into the mapping so that you can readily see where you dropped something. That doesn't mean exactly it's right here at this latitude and longitude. It's in this room. It's in this room somewhere. You still have to kind of remember where, but it's there. But as far as but now we're we feel pretty good about that. But now we're dealing with the twisting, the two mazes. We have the two mazes to do, the maze all different and maze all alike, and there have been questions raised by our QA people about that and how we want to deal with that. And I've been play testing, and I am just about to go into those two mazes and figure this very question out. So I think what we're going to do at first, well, it was a big question mark in the air. But since I haven't played it yet with the mapping system, because it's relatively new, but my inclination is to go ahead and auto map that too as we go through it. Why not?
As groundbreaking as the original Colossal Cave is, there are probably a lot of people who've never played it. So can you give us just a little bit of insight into the actual gameplay? You tend not to find puzzles in caves, so why is the Colossal Cave so perfect for adventure gamers?
Well, it is. Well, first of all, you have to think that the original name of this game was called Adventure.
Adventure, exactly.
That's what it was called. I don't. I am actually not sure when the name Colossal Cave actually came into existence. I should know that. I'm supposed to be this big expert now, on this game.
1984.
1984.
I
Good. Thank you.
I started doing a little paper on that. So
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. And I'm not sure why it came into existence, and now that's the name for it. I think probably it came about because the name Adventure was just so generic.
Exactly.
That there were so many adventure games out, and everybody's doing them, including yours truly. And so I'm probably one of the main ones to sort of take the word adventure sort of for myself, and our company and everybody else has done it. So that's probably the main reason. But its original name was just Adventure. And it's the first one. Therefore, to a very great extent, you have to consider that it is adventure. It is the adventure game. I have to credit Will Crowther and Don Woods for coming up with many of the conventions that all of us later have utilized and gone on to utilize as we created our own adventure games. Of course, we all added, other ways to experience an adventure game. One of the things that I did was add more story to an adventure game, and that's really the way I think it's sort of evolved is that it nowadays it's an interactive story kind of, and I was very big in that, adding that, and so, but going back to your original question is how do you, knowing that interactive story has now become a big part of playing adventure games, and this game doesn't have as much story per se as what you see now. How do you convince today's game players that they want to play a game that doesn't necessarily have a big story to it?
I know.
And
how.
what are you?
You put Roberta Williams at the name.
That helps a lot.
Well, thank you very much. But you have to realize there's a lot of players in today's world who have no idea who I am, and they're going to go, "Who is that? Who cares?" So it's got to be more than that. I mean, you may have a parent or a grandparent, for God's sake, who might say, "You don't know who Roberta Williams is." It has to be more than that, and that has been my challenge. My challenge, besides everything else I said, has been how do I make people that have played this game either a long time ago or a little time ago or even recently or whoever you are and you've played it in its original form and you know what it is and you love what it is, you would probably not be happy with me if I just went in and messed it all up and just put in all this, I put some random story in it and whatever, and you have to go and save somebody or do, or something like that. I couldn't do that. And I would definitely get pinged from that direction. But then there's the other direction of people who have never played it. They're probably younger. They're used to gaming now. And I will readily admit there's a bit of old school in me, and I had to figure out how do I bring in younger today's game players to try it even, and once they get into it, that they get just as taken with it as any of us that played it in the old days. And one of the ways that, without, messing with what's all, what we've all known and loved, that's really hard. That's probably the hardest part. It's a little bit like balancing on a high wire for me. Mm-hmm. I better not do this. Oh, but I better do this. Not that. And it's been really tough. And our team, we have a very big team, a very talented. Programmers, artists, sound people, just everybody. They're just animators. They're really, really good. They know their stuff. They're all basically about more or less the age of my kids. So they have definite ideas. They would be telling me, "Oh, you've got to do it like this." Today's game players are just not gonna, put up with this, or whatever. And then but then others, surprisingly, of our team would say, "Oh, no, you cannot you cannot make this too easy. You can't do that," because some of them would say, "Well, this is kind of a hard game, and we need to kind of hold their hand and help guide them through and all this and that." And then others would say, No, I think there's too much of that." They would say in today's games, we've got to keep it what it is. So I've been getting it all around, and I'm the one that's got to make these decisions. And Ken is the engineer. He's a programmer. He's managing a lot of this, but he says to him, And he's been calling me the boss. I hate that. He goes, go ask the boss. Go ask Roberta. It's up to her. It's not easy. The quick answer to your question is we've decided to keep essentially the original game as it is without too much hand holding. And we do have the auto mapping. That's a little hand holding, you might say, but it's really necessary for VR players. I mean, there was no getting around that. So really keeping the puzzles intact and all of that. There's no story I added to the game, except that I don't want to say too much, really.
I'm totally fine with you saying too much.
Well, okay. I mean, what we've decided was a lot of the things is what's the goal, when you go into this game. And the instructions up front will kind of tell you, but they did also in the original game. These are the instructions from the original designers. And they had several sets of instructions. I sort of pieced them together in an edited version. But basically, if you take instruction at the beginning of the game, which does take away 5 points from you, by the way, if you do that. But it's kind of necessary to do it up front. It tells you need to bring treasures to the well house. And if you think you have found all the treasures, keep looking, because there's more to find, and you may find that there's even more. So that gives you kind of, at least what you're doing when you get into the cave. But the other thing is that I sort of decided, along with my artists, I would say, I've done a lot of going over the game creatively with my artists. Because they've had to create the world. That this is a tour. Ultimately, this is an adventure tour. And you find that out for sure at the end of the game, where the cave is beginning to close. And you hear over the intercom throughout the entire cave, the cave is closing, start heading to the main office. Well, nobody has seen the main office, so nobody knows where that is. But they tell you there in that big, cavey reverberation through the cave, the adventure tour is now over. The cave is now closing. And so I took that and said, this is a tour. Now, granted, you're not going through it with a lot of other people. This is not a multiplayer game. But we like to give the impression that there are others, and there have been others that have been through here besides you from the modern world, and we've put in things around to give that impression. But so we've tried to give the impression that this is a tour, and everything you're seeing is set up by somebody pulling strings, making things happen. And maybe like you're going through Disneyland, in a sense. You're not walking through a cave per se. It's a cave, but it's not a normal cave. And things are going on around you, and things are being there's like puppet masters above you. So we get that impression.
What if I was to tell you that, unfortunately, you weren't the first to bring Colossal Cave back into gaming?
Dork?
No.
No,
What if you
no.
noticed in Return to Monkey Islands? The cave was in Return to Monkey Island.
Oh.
You didn't know?
No, I did not know.
Oh, Ron paid homage to you guys with the
Yes. Oh, that. Yeah, that. I know. Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yes. Absolutely. I knew that. Yeah.
Roberta, we could talk with you forever. I really wish that we could. You are an absolute legend. You are the mother of adventure games, and you are just incredible, and we appreciate you coming on to talk about Colossal Cave.
I love it. So I appreciate you asking me, and we're working hard. I just want everybody to know it, and trying to make this, just so wonderful. And I hope everybody tries it and loves it.
As I'm sure people are saying in the comments here, we want to say thanks for all the memories too, but we're looking forward to the next one. Really looking forward to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Always a pleasure, Roberta. You have an absolute wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.